1st, and this is a special meeting for the Fargo Board of Education. Before I go any further, I know we have a couple people on the phone at least. Could you please identify yourself so that we make sure we know who's on?
Brian Nelson.
Thank you, Brian. Who else is on? Brian, are you the only one on the phone?
I am here.
Okay, we were expecting perhaps Jim to be on the phone. It doesn't sound like he's here, but we'll
Okay.
help me out by listening. If you hear a beep, please. Okay. And Jennifer has joined us too. David is not here right now. He may walk in. Okay. All right. Getting back to our purpose of the meeting here, as I said, this is a special meeting of the Fargo Board of Education. And I just wanted to clarify because I know that there are some people in the audience today and listening on YouTube, and we have special meetings every once in a while, but not that frequently, which is why they're called special. And I wanted to let people know how it is that we are able to hold special meetings per our policy, which is GP2E. And that policy talks about that there are two ways that a special meeting can be called. One is by the president, and two is if 3 board members agree that there needs to be a special meeting. And so we are here today because 3 board members have decided that they would like to have a special meeting. And those 3 board members are Robin Nelson, David Paulson, and Jennifer Benson. At this moment, I would move for an approval of the agenda, please.
I move approval of the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion for approval of the agenda by Brian, second by Seth. All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Yeah.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Rebecca?
I'm going to double check here to see. David, are you also on the phone with us?
I am.
Okay. And Jim, are you on? Okay. So on the phone, we have Brian and David. Okay, so I would like to turn this over to the individuals that are on the memo. It's memo 130. That is what we are here to discuss today.
President Knutson, I move that the board approve suspending the FPS Smart Restart Plan for the 2021 school year, effective Wednesday, June 2nd. Sorry. Today's Tuesday. Oh, you're right. Okay. At 11:59 p.m. That took me a while. Sorry about that.
Okay, there's been a motion, and it's exactly as is written on the memo, right?
Yeah.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to memo 130. Is there a discussion? Robin?
The reason that I feel a special meeting is in order is, while the city of Fargo is lifting their mask mandates or making them optional, I think that's the key word here, as of tomorrow. In media, and I also verified with him, he said COVID is virtually undetectable in wastewater. And he feels that's the strongest indicator of whether COVID is prevalent in our community. But more than anything, everywhere I've been the last week, the only place that is requiring masks is in Fargo Public Schools buildings. I realize we only have 2 days left, but if we can give our kids and some of our teachers a chance to see each other smile at the end of the year, I think it's the right thing to do. I am not saying masks don't work. I'm not saying code isn't real. I am saying we're the only entity that I know of that is requiring masks. My family and I went to a family restaurant on Friday, and there were kids everywhere, indoors without masks. So it seems to me, it doesn't square with me that we're the only place that are requiring them. I think that's all I'll say, and see what everybody else has to say.
Okay, any other discussion? Nikki?
I'm curious because if we lift the mask mandate, that essentially means we remove the Smart Restart plan. How do you think, do you know, I don't know, have the teacher's perception of this, that all of a sudden we're just gonna do away with all the other things that are a piece of it? I'm a little concerned. I'll let it go at little concerned. We're doing this in the middle of negotiations. I don't think there's a huge appetite among our teachers for the last 2 days of school to be done with this. I guess I'm struggling a little bit. I want to get rid of masks just as fast as we can. I don't want my kids wearing them. I don't want to wear them. I get that. But we did promise that we would finish out the school year under the Smart Restart plan. So if we take away masks, we take away everything else as well. And I'd like a temperature from that group to see how they feel before we just go throw it out the window when we've stood on it all year long.
Excuse me.
This is David.
Hold on one second.
Rebecca, may I talk?
Okay, David, yes, go ahead, and then Tracy.
I think that we are suspending the Smart Restart on June 7th. So all we're moving it up is 6 days. And I agree with Robin's feelings. I think that the masks, I don't disagree that the masks should not have been used when they were, but we have a doctor who is our mayor, and he is saying that it is safe now to remove the mask, and I'm going to go with that, and that will be how I will vote.
Tracy? Jim, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Dr. Newman, go ahead.
I was just going to respond to your question because I had 2 phone calls with Kim Belgard over the weekend, the president of the FEA, and the teachers are not in favor of this, at least the union. They would prefer that we continue to protect them and continue our FPS restart. Actually, their exact words were they prefer we continue to follow CDC guidelines. So I understand there's a lot of feelings and a lot of emotion here today. Those are the words you're actually using, but that does not mean that that's science. Every major medical association continues to recommend masks in schools. The CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the North Dakota Department of Health, the Fargo Cass Public Health that we've taken guidance from all year, and now we know how our teachers and the majority of them in the union feel. Summer schools is a very different situation. You have smaller cohorts, you have better enhanced ability to ventilate, you have teachers who can choose to be in that role or not. These 2 days do matter. I mean, one person's comments does not expert guidance recommendations make. Thank you.
Robin?
I had the opportunity to tour a couple of elementary schools last week, and our teachers were handling it beautifully. And those classes aren't mixing, they're staying within the same cohorts. And I successfully did that last summer, with no masks and cohorting kids. And we had 0 COVID transmission at the Boys and Girls Clubs. So I know our teachers are doing the right things as far as grouping and cohorting. It's hard for me to justify to be the only entity in town requiring masks.
I would like to, I'll call on Tracy and then Nikki, but want to make one statement ahead of time.
Okay,
And
thank you for sharing that, Robin. That's called an anecdote. That's your personal experience. These people making these recommendations are groups of thousands of experts looking at all the data. That's how science works. Secondly, you're not the only entity in town. Excuse me, we aren't. I wear a mask every day at Sanford, the largest employer in our city. Many other people are continuing to require masks. So I think you can't really say that.
I would like to make one comment right now, and I have more to share later. I hope that we do not utilize our decision time today based on solely what other public entities are doing or what other entities within our city are doing. As a school district, we began the school year with a Smart Restart plan that required masks to be worn. Many school districts required masks to be worn even prior to other businesses or other public facilities. And that was in our case too, in Fargo Public Schools. We had the requirements that masks needed to be worn even prior to that needing to be happening within the city. So I offer us to keep that in mind, that we were one of the first. It helped provide for the health and the safety of our students and our staff. And we realized that we needed to do that in order to have our kids in person in education. And also to think about how much happens even in a short period of time regarding the ability to contract the disease. A funeral, a wedding, an anniversary, a reunion. Even though we only have a few days left of school, there is so much that can happen. Some can say, oh, there are only a few days left of school, no big deal, what's gonna happen? On the flip side, a lot can happen. And we can be responsible for helping to ensure, I would say, the safety of our community and our students and staff. Nikki had something, and then I just wanna make sure that I don't forget, and please help me remember, everyone, that we have 3 people on the phone. So Nikki and then Jennifer.
Well, my only comment was that there are other businesses requiring it because I've been in them. So I keep my mask in my pocket, and when I see on the door, mask required to enter, I pull it out and put it on. And I've been in several of those businesses. So they are out there.
Jennifer?
Thank you. So I have a few comments and then a couple of pieces of evidence to quote. But I would first like to say that in terms of experts disagree on this. So with all due respect, Tracy, I think that there is a growing number of experts that disagree with what you have said. The aim of science is to discover the truth, really, about the world. The aim of propaganda is to persuade people to accept certain ideas and feelings and attitudes. And I've heard a lot of talk about feelings and attitudes, feelings of the teachers union. And I think that's where we have failed. It's that we haven't demonstrated leadership. We haven't taken off our masks when we should have. The evidence is not clear. In fact, if you look at the evidence, it would suggest both internationally and here that the masks, there is no proven data that they actually work. So since we're here going to debate that, why don't we talk about the actual evidence? Vaccinated people as well have a 0.0005% chance of hospitalization and a 0.0001% chance of dying from the coronavirus. So people are taking significantly more risk every day when they decide to drive in their car or when they allow their students to play in sports. It is a much higher risk. So this, unfortunately, will never be zero risk, right? We have vaccines today that are 95+ effective in offering this protection. The district has provided that opportunity for every single staff and student wanting to take that protection for themselves. So the CDC recommendations are not mandates. There are no legal mandates currently in effect, and I think that's what Robin is saying. If people want to wear a mask, both students and teachers alike, they can. But it's time, it's overdue that we give that right back to individuals to make that sort of medical decision for themselves, and that we honor that there are unique circumstances for every individual, that we can't pretend to understand all of them. But to keep fostering this fear, I think, is irresponsible. I mean, if you look at studies, let's talk about studies in the UK of more than 12 million adults. These are studies that are emerging where spending time with children doesn't put adults at greater risk. It's actually shown to be more protective. I mean, think back to even flu season or a brand new teacher in their first year and then after, and how their immune system, over time is stronger. I think that it is irresponsible for us to continue this. And nationally, I will just say, cases were roughly 40% higher, 27 cases a day for every 100,000 in those counties with mask mandates versus 17 cases per 100,000 in those counties without. So again, evidence, data, not feelings and emotions driving our decisions.
Nikki, I saw that you had your hand up. Seth did. I'm going to call on Seth first because you haven't had the opportunity to speak yet. And then Brian? Is someone on the phone wanting to also speak? I don't hear it right now. Seth, go ahead, please.
I'm not going to vote on this based upon my feelings. I'm going to vote on this based upon CDC guidelines. And right now, CDC guidelines, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Newman, say if you are vaccinated, you do not have to wear a mask. If you are unvaccinated, you have to wear a mask. Children are unable to be vaccinated right now. So if we want to leave this up to, if we want to stick to CDC guidelines, then we can't really vote for this if we want to, if we want to adhere to those guidelines.
Nikki and then Robin.
I cede my time.
Robin.
I think it's okay if the board disagrees, and I don't want anybody to lose respect for each other if we disagree. I had something really good to say, and Seth's speech was good. Please come back to me. I want to make sure that we leave the personal feelings out of this amongst ourselves as well. It's okay to disagree, and I don't think any less of anybody on this board.
I echo that, and it's our responsibility as board members to treat each other with respect and honor our differing viewpoints. And after we vote on this, to leave this room in a fashion that represents the decision of the board. Robin?
Remembered, and maybe Dr. Newman can answer this. So if I am wearing a mask and somebody else isn't, unvaccinated, would I still be providing myself with some barrier from somebody else? Is there an increased level of safety if I am wearing it myself and the other person isn't?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
So I'm sitting next to Rebecca. I'm not vaccinated. She has no mask on. Let's assume we're both unvaccinated. She has no mask on, and if I have one on, is that providing myself some higher level of safety?
Absolutely.
Okay. So those kids that were opting to wear masks would have that safety if others weren't. One layer on one person would help protect that person, not as much as two people wearing masks.
Yes.
Okay.
But, I mean, study after study has shown that districts that have staff and students both require masks, the rates of COVID are significantly lower. Significant.
Maybe I'm not explaining that very well. If one person is wearing a mask and the other one isn't, if I'm wearing a mask and the other person isn't, would I still be a little bit safer than not wearing a mask at all?
Yes, any mitigation strategy helps.
So why would that be different if our students that wanted to wear masks were providing themselves with some safety?
Because it's less than everyone wearing a mask. I
Okay.
think that's,
But there's a degree of safety that's there with at least one
I
mask
don't know
on.
if that's been studied. I'm not going to be on the record as saying that. I'm unaware of data that shows that because no one would do that study because it's unsafe. But I guess in my mind, that logic follows, but I can't cite data to back that up.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to pass out some information. It's an email that I received. I believe I gave one to Anne Marie. I'll give it to the media after the meeting here, just so that you have it in writing. I visited with Brenton Niesemeyer 2 times since Saturday, and also have received an email from him. As we know, he is an epidemiologist with the North Dakota Department of Health, and we have relied on guidance from the North Dakota Department of Health to help us make decisions. We relied on information and guidance from them to help us put together the restart plan. I'm going to read the message that he sent to me because we are on YouTube and we also have 3 board members not in the room able to receive this. So I would like us to I would request that you take this information as you are thinking about voting. Again, this is an email from Brenton Niesemeyer to me, Rebecca Knutson, May 31st, about 6:33 p.m. Monday. I am just writing to provide my recommendations for the upcoming decision regarding the Fargo Public Schools instructional plan. Although North Dakota and Cass County are at the lowest COVID levels since the beginning of the pandemic, COVID is still circulating in our community and is not gone. Our community is doing a great job at vaccinating the eligible population, but we still have some work to do if we want to achieve herd immunity. Many of the students in the Fargo Public School system have not had the opportunity to be fully vaccinated, as it was just recently on May 10th that the FDA authorized the Pfizer vaccine for those who are 12 to 15 years of age. Many young adults and adolescents who chose to be vaccinated on day one will be receiving their second dose this week, and as a result will not be fully vaccinated until mid-June at the earliest. As you are probably aware, the CDC recently updated their guidance allowing those who are fully vaccinated to remove the mask in most situations. However, they also state that schools should continue their current mitigation plans for the remainder of the 2020-21 school year to allow for more children 12 and up to have the opportunity to become fully vaccinated. It is still the strong recommendation from the CDC, the North Dakota Department of Health, and major medical associations that masking still be utilized in school environments. Masking continues to be and has been one of the most important mitigation methods that was implemented during the past school year. Districts with successful masking policies in place this past year were very successful in keeping kids in school and avoiding unnecessary quarantine and isolation of large numbers of students. In addition, schools in which masking was a mitigation strategy saw reduced rates of COVID in both staff and students. I do want to take the time to thank the community members, the many parents, and all of the children for their commitment to practicing the best public health practices during the past year. Without the support of the community and as a whole, we would not be where we are today. And that ends Mr. Niesemeyer's comments to me. I reached out to him, knowing that this was not a memo that was coming from me. I wanted to get his current recommendations from the North Dakota Department of Health in terms of guidance for schools. So I wanted to share that information with you. That's my own personal education. I do not plan to support this motion for the information that I have received. I believe that it is important to stick to the decision that we made at the May 11th board meeting, which was to, on June 7th, put a close to the Smart Restart plan for this school year, and I support that. I continue to support that decision of the board. Jennifer.
Thank you. So with all due respect to Brenton, there is no evidence actually stated here. There is no school districts that he points to, and when we look at our own, in terms of right on the CDC, website, you can go through and you can find your the rates, and the highest number in Fargo was back in November, and we were under strict masking policies then. So to say that it's correlated, I guess I would like to see the actual evidence, because this is just a statement. Then I would say also, if you look at the WHO recommendations that have been consistent around masking children during physical activities, they have never supported it, and yet we did it. Why did we do that? So, lastly, I'd like to say, the community is living their lives. Kids are at restaurants. We see it. Kids are playing sports. We see it. They're not wearing masks. And yet our rates of COVID continue to decline. Think about the classroom setting, the fact that you are seeing the same students or most of the same students on a daily basis. That's different than even the exposures that you're exposing yourself to and your kids to by being out in the community. So unless all teachers and all students are telling me that they don't do any of those things outside of the classroom, how do you argue that the classroom is any less safe? I would say it's more, just because you have a more controlled environment of who you actually are exposed to. So,
Nikki, sorry.
Thank you. I'd
Nikki,
like
I
to
see-
interject.
Okay, Nikki, hold 1 second, please, Nikki. I just want to check to see, is there anyone on the phone, Brian, David, and Jim, that wanted to share comments or had questions?
Not at this time.
Me neither.
None. None.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Nikki.
I'd like to call the question so that we aren't here all day.
All right, there's been a motion to call the question. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion to call the question by Nikki, seconded by Robin. All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Anne Marie, we are ready when you are.
Newman,
No.
Paulson,
Yes.
Benson,
no, sorry.
I just want to verify, we're voting on the motion on the floor.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, we are.
I apologize. We are voting to call the question, is that correct?
No, you're voting on
No, we did.
Okay,
approving to suspend the smart
Oh,
research.
then my
I'm
vote
sorry,
stands
then
as
my
no.
mistake too. Thought we were voting to call the question. I thought you had to take a vote for that.
Rebecca
We
did
did.
a voice
did.
call.
We took. a
Oh,
voice
I'm
vote
so
on
sorry.
the
Then,
question.
yes, I need to redo my vote as well.
I'll start over, we're
Thank you.
doing a roll call on the motion on the floor, which is to suspend the FPS Smart Restart Plan for the 2021 school year effective Tuesday, June 1st at 11:59 PM. Okay?
Thank you, Anne Marie.
All right. Newman,
No.
Paulson,
Yes.
Benson,
Yes.
Gullickson,
No.
Holden,
No.
Johnson,
No.
Brian Nelson,
Yes.
Robin Nelson,
Yes.
President Knutson,
No. Motion fails. That takes us to the end of our agenda today. Thanks for being here. It is about 12:27 PM.